It's me again. The money one on one man. Try and make a dollar out of 15 cents. Then turning them cents into bands. So we talking about money and learning math. Financial freedom is the ultimate plan. The ultimate plan. So build your boxes, your saving plan. Store your bread, invest it, man. Keep your moolah, save the change. Think it through before you spend. And don't let money ruin you. Cause we talking about money and learning math. But always remember, money is just a tool we use to function. Using it the wrong way will lead to destruction. So let's talk about money and learn.
Good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. We're gonna talk about this money. Today, if you could see right behind me there, we're talking about credit. Your credit score, of course. And let's get into it. Okay. So, credit scores. I know you hear a lot of people talk about, credit and keeping your credit and making sure that you have good credit. And we all want to have good credit. Why? Because having good credit shows the financial institutions that lend you money how you perform with your money. It shows that you either pay your bills or don't pay your bills. Now, the it's called a FICO score. Okay, so FICO scores came along in 19, I think it was 1956 or somewhere up in there, that they started, 1956. Bell Fair and Earl Isaac started and then there was started a credit scoring system. So the credit scoring system, since 1989, there was a system for credit scores, and the most widely used credit scoring model in the USA is your FICO score. 90% of the banks and stuff use your credit score, like I said, to tell how you pay your bills, if you're a person that pays on time, if you're a person that pays late, maybe you miss a couple payments here and there and stuff like that. So that's what the financial institutions, lending institutions use to track and keep record of how you pay your bills and stuff. All of this makes a difference when you're buying stuff, because if you pay your bills and you're on time and you do it consistently for a long period of time, you have a better credit score and better credit ratings. If you, you say, well, I'll miss a payment here or there and stuff like that, that says, well, that, you're very good, but, you miss a payment here or there. All of those things matter. So how do they rate the credit? You have excellent, exceptional credit, and that scores from 800 to about 850, which is about the highest level you can get. And when you're hitting 800, 850, that means that you're paying all your bills on time. You have a variety mix of bills. Why is all this important? Well, the bills that you have. So credit is important because most of the time you don't have enough money to purchase what you want up front. So you have to get it on credit. Hence the credit cards and stuff like that they will give you. At 18, You go into college, they'll send you a letter in the mail. They'll come to the college campus. They will give you credit, period. But what they don't tell you is how to manage that credit so that you will continue to have good credit. They'll loan you money to go to school. They'll loan you money to buy a house. They'll loan you money to buy a car. They'll give you a credit card, which is an unsecured debt. And they'll start you off with, sometimes $300 or $400. Sometimes they'll give you $1,000. It all depends. Some credit cards companies even give you $10,000, but it's all credit. And a lot of times you start off young with all of that credit. And when you start off young with all that credit, what happens? You don't pay your bills. You don't keep up. You get behind. You don't have a job. You don't have steady income. And sometimes you just forget about paying your credit card bill. I think the majority of people can identify with what I'm talking about. They send you that envelope in the mail, said, hey, you can get a Visa, you can get a MasterCard, you can get a Discover, you can get American Express, and you fill out the little information and you apply, or one of those representatives show up at your college or school or something and said, yeah, you can get a student card because you go to school and it has an extra $300, $500, $1,000 or whatever, and you get that credit card. And if somebody has talked to you uh, about credit, you might understand and know to pay your bills. But if they haven't, then you pay, and then sometimes you don't pay. So that makes a difference. But as you can see, again, the scoring levels are excellent and excellent credit, 800 to 850. Exceptional stuff. Then you got the very good mark where you're at 740 from the 799. And then you got good credit, which is 607 to 739. And then you got fair credit, 550 to 699. 669, I'm sorry. And then there's poor credit, 300 to 579. So 300 to 579, that's poor. 580 to 669, that's fair. 670 to 739, that's good. And 740 to 799 is very good. And 800 to 850 is excellent or exceptional credit lines that you can have. Now, how do they get the credit score? How does the credit score get calculated? This is another thing that a lot of people talk about credit, but they don't. A lot of people don't get deep down into how the credit is calculated. Now, I'm not going. Those are the scores on the board, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how they get calculated. And you have what you call a FICO score and a Venture score, and they use different, somewhat of a different model to. You can see that on the screen there. They use somewhat of a different model to actually get your credit score. So what do? The FICO score, they have five different areas where they use to calculate your score. 35% of that, this is out of 100% now, 35%, think about this, 35% is your payment history. So the more you pay on time, the better for you, because that's 35% of your history of paying on time. So what they do every 30 days, whatever company that you are paying to. So let's say you have that American Express card. Let's say you have that Visa card, that MasterCard, um, Discover, um, um, whichever one you have, that credit card. If you use that credit card, let's say you got $1,000 on it, you use that credit card because there's many credit card companies out here. So you use that particular credit card to purchase an item. Now you're going to pay interest on that purchase. So you actually going to be paying more, but you're going to pay interest on it. Then, as you make those payments, so if you have $1,000, and they say your minimum payment is about $35 nowadays. So $35, you pay that every month, and as long as you pay that within the 30 days, that will keep your 35% score up there because the longer with the history of paying on time, that's 35% of your credit FICO score. That's where most of it comes from. 35%. That's paying on time. So it's important that when you have credit cards, or if you bought a car, or if you bought a house, within 30 days, make those payments. Make those payments because they report this stuff to the credit bureau every 30 days. So make sure you're paying on time, even if it's just the minimum payments. I know you want to get that bill out of the way. It's like, man, I want to finish this thing. Make sure you make the minimum payments on time because the history of your paying bills on time is 35% of your score. So that would make the numbers stay up at 800 or go all the way down below towards the 300 mark. So make sure you're paying on time. Make sure you have a good history of paying. That is very important. Then the amount of credit, the amount you owe. This should be below the 30%. So if you owe $1,000, if you have $1,000 worth of credit, put it that way, 30% of that thousand is around 300 and something. So you should have $700, pretty much, give or take $300 to 30%, and you should have at least about $700 spending, if my math is right. But do the math. That's what we hear, right? You can do the math. So if I say something and it's not quite right, um, check it. Do the math. I want you to do the math because if you do the math, then guess what? You're going to feel better about how you're going to learn more about this information if you do the math, not just have me to do the math for you. I want you to learn about this stuff. I want you to know. So 30 and 35% is paying on time. 30% is the amount that you owe, the amount of credit that you have. So if you have $1,000 worth of credit, you want to typically keep that below around 30% ratio on spending. And ideally, if you can keep it below 10%. So if you have 1,000, you want to try to keep it around $100 on spending. And you want to make sure every time you spend that, you want to make sure you pay it back. If you can pay off everything that you spent within 30 days, which is why I always tell people we should have emergency saving funds, and we still should be saving on top of that. But with your credit cards, if they give you a credit card and you have $1,000, the idea is you have $1,000 worth of credit. You should have at least $1,200 set aside so that when that bill comes, you can pay that bill and still be okay. In other words, you can pay it off and still be okay. It'd be nice if you could pay off the credit card every time it comes. If you pay it off every time it comes, they will increase your limit. If you're if you're paying it off, I mean, every single time. So some credit card companies will increase your limit. So if you charge $500 and in 30 days when that bill comes, you pay that $500 and you do that every time consistently for about a year, at the end of that year, that credit card company may increase or double whatever you are currently limited to. So just make sure that you're paying though on time, even if you just pay the minimum. But if you would pay it off, I'm talking like you go out this month, you make a bill for $500, you come back at the end of the month, you pay the $500. Credit card companies don't really like you to do that, but they applaud those efforts because a lot of times when you do that, they double or they'll triple your amount that you have credit for, which gives you more buying power. You know, I mean, if you're going to use credit cards, use them and use them wisely. I don't necessarily like credit cards, but if you're going to use credit cards, use them wisely because they're going to help you. And then, and remember now, we're talking about the percentage on FICO score and how they get the numbers for your FICO score. So payment history is 35%. Remember that. The credit amount, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever the amount is, that gives 30% of your score. So now the length of history, the amount of time that you had your credit. So if you had your credit for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, or whatever, 15% of that makes up your credit score. So now you're at 35, 30, that is 65, and 5. So now you're at 70, about 70, 30, 60, yeah, 70%, 35, 65, and 15. 85%. No, 80%. I'm sorry, 80. You're at 80% now. So 35% is payment history. 30% is credit, the amount of credit. And 15% of that is the history. How long have you established your credit? How long have you been in credit? This is what FICO used to make your credit score. This is what FICO used to get that exceptional, excellent 800 to 850. This is what they use to get those very good 740s to 799s. This is what they use, this FICO system. And then new credit. New credit is 10%. So if you're able to get new credit, that means other companies are passing out credits to you, saying that oh well, you can have more than one Visa card, you can have more than one American Express card, you can have more than one MasterCard, and they have other companies that will issue you a card or even store credit cards like Harbor Freight or Portman Music or used to be Sears, Belks. These companies have their own credit card. Even Sam's, I think, have their own credit card that you can use. So all of these stores opening up their credit limit to you is 10%. So new credits are 10% of the score. And then having a mixture or variety of credits that you manage. So let's say you have a car payment with the bank, you have your mortgage, you have your credit cards, and then you have personal loans. That's a mixture, a variety, installment payments, auto loans, stuff like that. Those are a variety of payments that you will have, and that accounts for 10% of your credit score. So that's 35, 30, 15, 10, and 10. That's 100% of how they get the number that actually creates your credit score. And you want a good number. You want to be 740 to 799. You want to be 800 to 850. 670 to 739 is good. It's good. But what's going to happen with all of these different numbers? Well, that's the FICO. That's what FICO does to get your score. Now, what does Venture Score use? They use six methods that they use, but they don't do the percentage. But they look at these things. Vintage Score. They look at your total payment history, the behavior, how you've been paying, of course. They look at your credit utilization, of course. They look at the length, of course. They look at the amount, of course. And then they look at the recent behavior. And then they look at the available credit. So ventures look at these things and FICO look at these things. But these are two of the companies that causes you to have either 800 or a 700 or 600 or 500 or 300 scores. And as you can see, with the excellent and exceptional scores, the 800 to 850, what do you think will happen if you have an 800, 850 credit score? You have an 800, 850 credit score, you have, I wouldn't say unlimited borrowing power, but you would have a substantial borrowing money power for having an 800 to 850. You may be able to walk on the lot and probably buy just about any vehicle with that type of credit rating. You'll probably even, you'll get better loans, better ratings. When I say ratings, you'll get better interest rates on your payback. So what I mean by that? What do I mean by you'll get better ratings? Okay, so if your score is between 800 and 850, that's the difference of saying pay 2% on your loan versus if you were at say 580 where you was fair, they may charge you 12 or 15%. So do you see the difference? 4%, 2% versus 12%. Now, if you're investing and you're making 12%, you'd be okay, you'd be good. But when you have to pay out 12%, 14%, 18%, 22%, 33%, those are some high payouts. And you could be in a wheel, almost like a hamster spinning a wheel and getting nowhere because the interest is really eating you up and causing you to have to pay more. So this is the difference between having good credit and what you say exceptional credit versus poor and fair credit. Why? Because again, exceptional credit, their banks and lending institutions are more willing to loan you money at lower interest rates. And that's where that's where anybody wants to be in that rating. Good, very good. You may get a little higher interest rate, but it won't. The very good won't be as bad. So let's do it this way: exceptional and excellent. Let's say that's the 2%. The very good, 4 to 6%. The good, 8 to 10%. The fair, 10 to 14, or even higher. And then the poor, 14 and above. You can get it, as I hear others who talk about credit talk about it. You can get it, but you may be paying a lot more for it because your credit score is low. Remember that. You can get it. There's a lot of institutions out here that'll be glad to give it to you and give you another chance. But they're really betting on you failing, because let's say you went out and bought that nice BMW that you want, or Mercedes-Benz or Volvo or Lexus or whatever car you want. And let's say you had poor credit. There's somebody willing to sell you that car. But you know what kind of interest rate you're going to have? You're going to be making higher payments because the interest rate is going to be just that much higher on that car because your credit is poor. If your credit is in the exceptional group, you'll be paying less interest. And then you will appreciate that if you understood that being in the exceptional group according to your credit score. But this is all pretty much just about your credit score. I'm not telling you to go run out here and buy a car. I'm not telling you to go out here and get credit cards. I'm not telling you to go out here and do anything strenuous, because you have to have a strategy anyway. You have to have something that will work for you. This is about your credit score and how they score you. Like I said, payment history. Like I said, payment history, the amount of credit, the length of time you're in the credit, and the new credit, and a mixture of credit. You may have credit, but you may not have good credit. You may have credit, but then you may not have enough length of time of using your credit. You know, the man that says, I'm gonna pay cash for everything. Okay, that's fine. You paid cash for everything. But here's the issue after you paid cash for everything. You paid cash for everything, and then the everything that you paid cash for, you never had use your credit to get anything. So now you've got all this credit sitting there, but the banks are saying, no, we because you have no payment history of using your credit, then the banks are going to say, well, we don't know your history, so we really can't, use this, because we need to know a history. We need to see that you have been paying. And you say, well, I paid cash for everything. Well, like I said, paying cash is never a problem. It's not a problem. If you got cash, pay cash. But having established some credit along the way will help you. I'm not saying you have to use it all the time. The length of you using it will help in their scoring process. So if you've been using your credit for 20 years, you've been paying on time and making every one of your payments and doing what you're supposed to do, you will have a 800, 850 exceptional credit score. That's lovely. That means you can probably just about go get anything you want on credit. And most of the time the lenders or whoever pulls your credit score up will see this, and they'll be able to get that. Now, the FICO score and the Venture score pretty much are the only two companies out here that I know of that are rating your credit, and they report to these credit bureaus every 30 days so that they can have a history. And now, as far as the score part, now you have Equifax, you have Experian, and you have Union. and they are the ones that monitor these credit scores. So the information goes into FICO, and the FICO is distributed to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Those are the three major credit sources that most of your credit lenders will go to those places and ask them, what is your credit like? They're going to go to them places and ask them, what is his credit like? Um, did he pay on time? Did she pay on time? How long has she's been in this credit? How long has he been in the credit game? As I said, how long has he been using his credit? How long has she been using her credit? Because those three companies, again, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, they are the companies that get the report, and they will monitor that report, and they'll pass that information on to lending institutions. And those lending institutions will then determine how much money they will loan you according to your credit score. So make sure that you're keeping good credit, excellent credit, good credit, um, very good credit, fares, and poor, and don't feel bad if you are in the poor category or the fair category, or not in the good, not in the very good, not in the exceptional, because length of history. So go and make sure you monitor your credit. Now, a lot of people don't know, but the free annual credit score, I think it's freeannualcredit.com. They will give you a free uh, score from all three of the credit unions. So you'll have your score from Experian, you have your score from TransUnion, and you have your score from Equifax. Those three, you will get your score if you go on freecreditscore.com, I believe it is. Now, another way, make sure you're monitoring your own credit. Now, they have companies out there like Credit Karma, and there's another one. There's two companies, Credit Karma and Credit Sesame, and but there are at least two that I know of. There may be more that will help you monitor your credit, and they will give you set up an account with Credit Karma or Credit Sesame, and you go on there, and they will give you your credit score. Now, a lot of those credit scores are very close to what your actual score is. I'm gonna put it like that, because I'm not gonna say it's the exact score. Sometimes it could be higher, sometimes it could be lower, but they are very close to what your score is. And if the lender uses those companies to measure your score, to see your score, so they can tell you how much they're going to lend you, then those numbers from Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, and a few other companies out there that monitor your credit. So just find a company that'll help you monitor your credit. They'll send you, emails and stuff and whatnot, and you can actually go in there, monitor your credit, figure out what your score is on, say, Credit Karma. Let's say Credit Karma, use that, and you go in there, and it'll give you a credit history. It'll show you the bills that you have to pay. It'll show you how much you're paying, to what companies, how many credit cards you have. It'll probably even offer you some new credit card information and stuff like that. And the reason I know, I use Credit Karma, so that's why I'm saying that Credit Karma is one of the best ones out there. Credit Sesame is good. You can monitor there as well. I think Experian has a member where you can sign up there and monitor. I believe it is. And like I say, monitor your credit. Of course, freecreditreport.com. 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 You can go on there once a year and get your credit score from all three of the major um, entities. So when you go on freecreditreport.com, you will see Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, the three major companies that report your credit to everyone. Anyone that's lending money can call those companies. They can check with those three companies to find out what your credit score is. And then they will, the company that's loaning you the money will determine how much money they will loan you at what rate because of your credit score. So it's important to keep that credit score right. Like I said, this is just about your credit score and how they score it, and how, like I said, FICO and Venture Score, they have the same, pretty much the same model of rating your score. So just remember that they have the same model for rating your score. So 35% is credit history, 30% is the amount of credit, 15% is the length of time you had the credit, and 10% of that is what new credit offers you are getting, and 10% of that is having a variety of different types of credit cards, a vehicle or house, mortgage. All of these make a difference in your credit score. Also, remember this: inquiries. If you're out here every 5 minutes applying for credit, and they take an inquiry of your credit, if it's a hard inquiry, you're going to lose points on your credit score. So remember that. If it's a hard inquiry, you're going to lose points on your credit score. You don't want to lose points on your credit score. You want to be able to have as many points. I remember real quickly, I went to a local credit monitoring place, and they pulled up my credit, and I didn't have a credit inquiry for about 2 or 3 years, and that added points to my credit because I wasn't out trying to buy things. I wasn't out getting, pulling up my credit at every major place trying to buy things. So remember, if you go out to get a car or something, the best way would be to actually go to the bank. Let the bank pull up your credit and let them tell you how much money they're going to be able to give you according to your credit so that you can go buy a car. That is by far, I think everybody would recommend doing that. If they haven't, maybe you should do that. Go to the bank or credit union, sit down with the banker, the lender, find out, according to my credit, how much money can I receive to go buy me a car. This is going to save you a lot of time. This is going to save you a lot of headache, because now you have a budget in your hand as to how much car you're going to go and purchase, because the bank is already telling you that here is X amount of money for you to go to buy a car. If you're buying a new car, of course it's going to cost more. You buying a good used car, um, you know, it may not cost you as much. Um, it all depends. But go to the bank first. If you can remember this, go to the bank first. Let the bank tell you how much money that they're going to lend you. Once they tell you how much they're going to lend you according to your FICO score there, according to your credit score, it would be easier because now you already know what the interest rate is going to be and you know how much you're going to have to pay back to the bank. And that way, when you get to the car buying place, if you go to the car buying place, what happens is they're going to pull your credit. They're going to pull it. And it's going to be a hard pull. And it's going to make your credit, it's going to make your credit score come down a few points when they pull a hard inquiry. Now, a lot of people will say, well, we'll do a soft inquiry. Soft inquiry should not hurt your credit score, but sometimes it shouldn't hurt it. But a hard inquiry, meaning that they're gonna pull your credit to find out what your actual score is, so they can tell you how much interest they're gonna charge you on your vehicle. And this is where you get a lot of us, because when you go to buy a vehicle, if you don't have enough cash to buy the vehicle, you're going to have to get it on credit. This is why you need good credit. When you go to buy that house and you don't have $500,000 or $600,000 to buy that house, 400,000, 300, 200,000, whatever, you don't have that sitting around in cash. You're going to have to borrow that money from a bank. This is why your credit score is so important. This is why it's good to have good credit. Because when you go to get that loan, because you don't have enough money sitting in an account that you can use to purchase whatever it is that you want to purchase. So having good credit allows you to go to the bank and say, hey, I have an 800 credit score. I have a 700 credit score. I'm in the very good category. You're telling the bank by your score that I will be able to pay you. I'm not saying you can't get it with a poor score. I'm not saying you can't get it with a fair score, but the interest rates are going to be much higher. But the higher your score is, the better for you. The higher your score is better for you. Why? Because if your score is in the 800s, you're not paying maybe 2 to 4% interest. Maybe. If you're in the very good, 4 to 6. Somewhere in there. And you want your numbers to be that high. Because when you go walk on that car lot, you want that nice Lexus, BMW, Cadillac, Mercedes, Lincoln, Volvo, whatever it is that you want, Mercedes Benz or whatever that you want, you walk into that car dealership. Hopefully you done went to the bank and the bank has already told you how much you can spend, and you go there and you get something within your spending limits. But if you haven't and they pull in your credit, they see this, they'll be glad to finance your car. And like I said, even with poor credit, they'll be glad to finance it. But you will be paying top dollar plus interest. You say, yeah, I got me a Mercedes, I got me a Volvo, I got me a Lexus, I got a BMW. What kind of payments you got? Oh, I'm paying $700, $800, $900, $1,000 a month. What kind of interest rate you got? 18, 20, 22%? Why? Because your credit score was low. So now you're paying. But you're paying a lot more now because your credit score is low. Same thing with the credit cards companies. They look at your credit score and they said, "Oh, you got poor credit. We still give you $1,000, but now you're going to be paying 30 or 40% on that $1,000." Do the math. 30 to 40% on $1,000. You almost paying two times for that one product. For that one time that you use that credit card, you almost paying 2 to 3 times that much. It'll take you 2 or 3 years to get out of that kind of debt. Do the math. Do it. This is why this video exists, because I'm challenging you to do the math, to understand why you need an excellent credit score. Because when you begin to get those interest rate loans, you don't want to be paying more than 2 to 4%. And that's still even high. If you can get it for 1%, get it. The lower interest rate that you have to pay back, the better. Even if you can get it for point something. Now, in order to understand the interest rate, think about like this. You take the number 100. Most calculators got a percent sign on there, so multiply it by 10%, and you'll see the numbers. Pretty much it's just moving the decimal point over to get those percentage, pretty much. So make sure that you have a good credit score. Make sure you're in the excellent to exceptional. And if you're not, you're very good or good. They get the better interest rates. Fair and poor gets higher interest rates. Good, very good, and exceptional, they get a lower interest rate. Now, you want the lowest interest rate? Be exceptional. Pay your bills on time. Have a 5 or 10 or 7-8 year payment history. Make sure the amount of credit that you're using of your credit is below 30%, around 10 to 20%, in between that 30% level. Why? Because you don't want to be living, when you do that, you don't want to be living above your means. You want to be living within your means. You want to be living within the amount of money that you're making. You want to be living within those means. A lot of times we are living beyond our means, and sometimes credit will get you beyond your means. Sometimes having all this good credit will put you out there so far until you're stressed out. And you don't want to be stressed out paying bills. You want to be in a comfortable spot when you're paying your bills. You want to know that you went to work and it counts and it matters. Pay your bills on time. Now, the other part of this is like, I think there's an app now or something that is helping people. But when you pay your electric bill, pay your phone bill, you pay your insurances and stuff. You do all of that on time, but none of that really counts towards your credit score. Like I said, I think, don't quote me, but I think there's an app now that helps people who pay their rent or pay their credit card bills, not credit card bills, pay their rent, their utilities and stuff on time, that they are now applying some of that to your credit history so that people can see that you're still a good credit risk when they loan you that money. It used to be a time that didn't even count. But what really counts and what really help your credit score, if you have a mortgage, you're paying that on time. If you have a car payment, you're paying that on time. You have credit cards, you're paying that on time. If you have personal loans, you're paying that on time. Be careful with the personal loans. The banks are some banks are by Fed rate, so they can't give you, but they can't make you pay but so much interest on the money that you borrow from them. And then these loan sharks that operate outside of the bank, they can charge you as much interest as they will, as long as you agree to pay it. They can charge you 18 to 20%, and you'll be paying back double what you borrow, sometimes almost triple what you borrow. And for goodness, do not get a car loan, what they call them, the title max people. They charge you a lot of interest. So you go down there and you pawn your title, and they charge you a lot of interest. Be careful going to these places. You go to the personal loan company, they give you a loan. I went to one some years ago. I borrowed $500. I was very young. I borrowed $500. When I finally got down to the last payment a year later, they asked me if I would like to borrow another $500. I told them no, thank you for the first 500, and I will not be back. And I haven't been back to one of those loan places since. What I'm saying, be careful with the payday loans. Be careful with the little loan companies that tell you you can get $500 or $600. Sure, you can. If you stop eating out for a month or two, you might can raise your own $500. I'm just, letting you know that your credit score is very important. I want to make sure I keep this about credit and credit score. So make sure if you're gonna have credit cards, pay them off immediately upon using them. That helps. That helps you. Credit card company don't like it. They call you deadbeat, but that's their problem. You make sure you pay your bills and pay them on time, because you want your credit score to be at an 800 or better. 700 is good because you still can get good rates and stuff in the 700s. There are many credit companies out here that'll help you. If your credit is bad, there are many credit companies out here that'll help you. Some you might have to pay a fee, but there are many credit companies out here that help you get your credit straight so that you can have good credit, so that because your credit matters a lot more than what you think it does. So let's keep that credit going. Let's keep those things happening. Why? Because you don't have the money. And when you don't have the money, if your credit score is good, you can always get the money. But you want to have good credit score because you want to have, you want to be able to get the money at a good rate. You don't just want to, poor credit can get money too now, but the rate is going to be higher. You're going to be paying 10, 12, 14, anything above 10% when you're in the poor category and the fair category. Even in the good category, sometimes they want to get 10%. But when you're in that very good and exceptional, now you start seeing 9s and 8s and single digit interest rates versus double digit interest rates. That's what you begin to see. And that's what you want to see more of, is single interest rates. You want to see more of the 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1% that you have to pay back. Now, when you're investing on the other side, you want to see double digits. You want to see 10, 12, 14, you want to see those double digits on that side. But when you are paying out your money out of your pocket, out of your income, you want to be paying the lowest possible interest rate on your money returning to that company. Okay? So remember, your credit score is very important. 35% of it is the history. 30% of it is the amount of credit. 15% is the time. When I say history, and then what I'm saying about the length of time is how long has it been established? The history of how you pay is 35%. So if you're paying on time every time, that counts for 35% of your score. If the amount that you have out there, that's 30% of your score. And the length of the history of time is 15% of the score. That's the age. That's the age. And then 10% for all the new credit and 10% for having a mixture of credit. All of this is what amounts to with your credit score. And that determines whether you have an 800 or a 300 or anything in between. So make sure you're following through on these things. Make sure you're following through on payment history, and keeping a monitor tab on the amount and using about 30% or less. Make sure you have 5, 6, 7 years of history. Make sure, even longer or shorter, but just make sure you got a good history. Because like I said, there's a lot of people that want to pay in cash. There's a lot of people that just want to, pay in cash. They just want to, oh, cash, cash, cash. It's good. Cash is good. Nothing wrong with cash. But have a good score so that you can, when you're paying for things and when you have to purchase things that you have no money to pay for, that lending institution will be glad to loan you the money, because they can look at your score, your FICO score, your Venture score. They can look at it and they can say, oh, this person has good credit. Credit Karma and Credit Sesame and Experian offers monitoring for your credit. So you can go on there, sign up, and they'll help you monitor your credit so you can see what's on it. If there are things on your credit that are not, if there are things on your credit that are not right or not supposed to be there, there are ways to get those things off of. I'm not the person to call for that. No, I'm not that person. All I'm here to do is try to help you understand that this is your score, and this is where they get the information from to make your score. And once you understand that this is what they take, the payment history, the amount, the length, the credit, and the mixture of credit, this is where your score comes from. And when you understand that these are what your scores could be, as you can see, these are what your scores should be, anywhere from 300 up to 850. And the 700 area is real good credit. And now they got very good up there. So you got to get a 740 to a 799 to have very good credit. But once you hit good credit and very good credit, once you hit those two, your interest rates will be a little bit lower, and it will be easy for you to get a 800 over time if you remember to continue to pay your bills on time, especially with those little credit cards and stuff. Another thing that helps is that student loan. When you are repaying that, if you got yours forgiven, good. If you can get yours forgiven, good. But for those who haven't got it forgiven, those who haven't, those who have to make that payment, remember, it's gonna, as you make those payments and make them on time, it's gonna help your credit. You want to have good credit. Everybody wants to have good credit. Remember, um, if you have good credit, you'll be able to, and this is individually. Business credit can this is this is all personal credit that we were talking about today. Personal credit. Now there's such thing as business credit. Hadn't talked about that yet. Hadn't even got on that. But this is personal credit. And with personal credit, which is where most people end up using their personal credit to get things and to establish things until you get business credit. But for most people, it's going to be this personal credit. It's going to be this personal credit right here, these scores right here. They matter. They are your scores. Do your best to keep them up. Do your best. It may take you some time. You may have had good credit and fell back down and had poor credit. Uh, the numbers may have fluctuated in your life because nobody maybe never told you about credit, but make sure you have good credit because it's very important so that when you don't have money and you have to borrow money, you can get a better interest rate because that's what you need this credit for. Because other than that, if you had $10,000 or $100,000 every time you needed it, and you can go purchase what you want, you probably wouldn't even have to worry about this credit and your credit score. But you need good credit score in order to make things right, to be able to borrow that money, to be able to purchase those things that you have not enough money to purchase. So make sure that if you don't have money to purchase certain things, then make sure your credit is good so that you can get that loan to purchase. All right. Make sure you remember that. So your FICO score determines how much interest you're going to pay on your loan. Thank you.